Hey, I know you're in there. Come out. Bang, bang. The front door of my parents' home is being pounded on furiously. After being cheated on by my ex-husband, Jameson, I had divorced him and came back to my parents' home. Jameson showed up unannounced and completely unconcerned about being a nuisance to the neighborhood. Can you believe how much money I've spent on you? The trips, meals, even the living expenses since we got married, all came out of my hard-earned money. If you're talking about divorce, then how about returning all the money I've spent on you? What you're doing is just like racking up debt. He rants as if he's the victim. All I can do is sigh. All right, fine. Come inside for now, I said, opening the door with a look of resignation, and there he stands, smirking, as if he's won. Gotcha. I'm the one who should really be smirking. Jameson wouldn't even realize he had stepped into a big trap. My name is Lydia. I used to work as an office worker, and I got along well with a colleague, Jameson. We hit it off at an office party and ended up getting married. The following year, I became pregnant and decided to take maternity leave. Lydia, congratulations. Please let me know when the baby arrives. Gabriella, my team member, gleamed with excitement, gifting me a charm for a safe childbirth. It's great news, but I'm sad I won't be getting guidance from you anymore, Lydia. Don't worry, Jameson will be your new boss. He's even better at the job than I am. Gabriella's boss was to be Jameson. Jameson already had a female employee, Sarah, under him, but he was higher in position than me and had more trust from the company. I felt confident leaving in his hands. As Gabriella exaggerated her sadness, I left the company I had grown so fond of. And thus began my maternity leave. Our house, quite a distance from my parents' home in a different state, made frequent visits to my family challenging. Preferring to avoid long train rides, I chose to focus on my maternity leave at home. This house was a wedding gift from my father, a doctor in our local town, who was quite well off financially. He bought us this house, knowing we were just starting out and didn't have much money. As our family was expected to grow, he spared no expense in building a spacious house and covering all the land costs. I couldn't be more grateful to my father. For a while, Jameson and I felt indebted to my father. To repay him, especially since our income reduced during my maternity leave, Jameson started working harder and coming home later and later each day. Despite our company normally allowing employees to leave on time, recently, he had been returning hours later. How's work going? You've been coming home late, but you're not overdoing it, right? I'm fine. It's my duty to work hard for you and our baby. This is nothing. Despite the late hours, Jameson seemed unfazed and even happy. I have to take care of my team and my own work, so I'm short on time. I might even have to stay overnight at the office, but don't worry, I'm managing my health. Just focus on our baby, he reassured me, gently rubbing my belly as usual. I had believed in that smile. I was completely trusting. It was when my belly had grown significantly heavier that cracks started appearing in my trust for Jameson, who had been the ideal husband. Lydia, it's been a while. How about we grab some coffee sometime? One weekend, I got an invitation from Gabriella. My morning sickness had settled down, so I eagerly agreed to meet her and started getting ready, despite my big belly. An hour later, Gabriella came over to visit. She was overjoyed at the sight of my belly, but then she said something odd. It's amazing how big you've gotten. To think that you, who always had been skinny, would change like this because of a baby. It's my first pregnancy, so it's a surprise every day. Thanks for coming all this way. Jameson's out, so make yourself comfortable. Yay, I know, Gabriella said, aware that Jameson wasn't home. Her expression darkened a bit, even though she had been smiling just a moment ago. Actually, there's something I need to tell you, without Jameson finding out. Her serious demeanor made me nervous as I invited her into the room. Sipping on slightly lukewarm cocoa, Gabriella began to speak softly. I was hesitant to say this, but I felt you needed to know, and that's why I came today. You're scaring me with that serious face. If you're hesitating, it must be something important, right? Tell me. After a pause, Gabriella looked me in the eyes. Jameson is having an affair. It took me a few seconds of silence to comprehend her words. Wait, what do you mean? As I was confused, Gabriella simply explained what she had seen recently. It started with feeling something was off about Jameson's behavior. He has a team member named Sarah, and his physical interactions with her were excessive. Touching her hand, grabbing her shoulder, sometimes even touching her backside, clearly beyond the bounds of normal behavior. At first, Gabriella thought it was just harassment and asked Sarah if she was okay, but Sarah's response was unexpected. "It's not harassment. I'm happy when Jameson touches me. Besides, we're in love, so it doesn't matter, right?" I was shocked to hear this, especially since Sarah knew about me. "But Jameson is married and has a child on the way, you know that, right?" "I know. But Jameson said he doesn't want the child. He said he's losing his attraction to his wife and wants to break up as soon as possible." With that, Sarah left. The happiness of my married life made this hard to believe. But I knew Gabriella wouldn't joke about such a thing. "Thanks for telling me. I trust you. But I also trust Jameson, so I'll look into it myself. Can you keep what you told me today just between us?" After Gabriella left, I immediately hired a private investigator to look into Jameson's affair. The results were damning. The investigator sent photos of Jameson and Sarah dining together and kissing. Seeing those, my feelings for Jameson cooled instantly. Crying, I reported this to my parents, and my father got furious. Infidelity is unforgivable, especially with a child on the way. It's outrageous. "I'm coming over, Lydia. Get ready to leave." True to his word, my father came early the next morning to pick me up, before Jameson left for work. We ran into each other at the front door. "Oh, good morning, but why are you here?" "There's no why about it. I can't stand men like you. I'm taking my daughter. We're selling this house and the land, so you need to leave today." "What do you mean? What's going on?" "Lydia, explain." I couldn't bring myself to say a word to Jameson. I left the house, entrusting my father with my large luggage. The commotion quickly spread to the company, and by noon, Gabriella contacted me. She was worried it was her fault, but I was actually grateful to her. "Thanks to you, I was able to divorce that cheating man. I'm actually grateful. But Jameson is taking some personal days off starting tomorrow. He'll probably come to your place. What should I do?" "The security at my parents' house is top-notch, and my father is there too. There's nothing to worry about really, but actually, could you do me a favor?" I asked her, seeking some information to get the better of Jameson. "Thanks. With this, I can get my revenge." Ending the call with a smile, my father, who was driving, looked at me curiously. "What's with the sudden good mood? Jameson might show up at our place tomorrow." I thought I'd give him a warm welcome. I was no longer sad. I was ready to give back everything I had been deceived of. As Gabriella predicted, Jameson showed up at my parents' house the next day. "Lydia, I know you're there. Come out. It's all a misunderstanding." There he was, red-faced with anger. "I don't know who's been filling your head, but I haven't done anything to deserve being thrown out like this. Can you honestly say you've done nothing wrong?" "Of course. I don't mind being punched by your father. I just want to tell the truth. I just couldn't stand Jameson's honest-looking eyes, which made everyone want to believe in him. I had evidence. This was just a farce." "Fine. Come inside. Let's talk in front of my father and clear up any misunderstandings." "All right." I led Jameson to a back room. "I forgot to mention, we have a guest. Say hello, will you?" In the room, my father was already seated. And there is Sarah, sitting right in front of my father. I had gotten Sarah's contact information from Gabriella. When I told Shrara that I wanted to talk something about Jameson, she even bothered to come. Impressive initiative, but it turned out to be quite disadvantageous for Jameson. Jameson's face turned pale as he saw Sarah. "She also wants to talk to me. But I'm busy, so listen to her together." Seeing a speechless Jameson, Sarah started tremblingly. "Jameson and I have been in a relationship for a long time. I knew he was married to you, Lydia. But he told me he loved me. He's such a kind man. It's unfair that everything is taken from him. Can't you at least leave the house to Jameson?" "Sarah, what nonsense are you spouting?" Jameson glared at her, replying disdainfully. "Don't drag me into your delusions. I've been bothered by your misunderstanding for a long time. To come here and lie like this." Enraged, Jameson pushed Sarah away and approached me. I'd been troubled by her too. She probably misinterpreted my guidance as a manager for something else. "I was wondering when to talk to you about it." "That's awful. You were the one who approached me," Sarah said, stunned. As Jameson rambled, I pulled out a few photos from my pocket. The private investigator had captured Jameson and Sarah in the act. "Is this part of your guidance as a manager? Hugging and kissing. Where did you get those photos?" "It's not just photos. There's a video too. Shall I play it here?" Jameson, lost for words, turned to Sarah, but she no longer showed any intention to defend him. "This is the worst. You even brought Sarah here, prepared these photos. Was this all your plan? I just uncovered your wrongdoings. It's your fault. I'll be filing for compensation soon. Now, please leave." "No way. Do you know how much I've spent in travel expenses to get here?" Jameson started to whine like a child. "Yeah, remember all the times I paid for our dates, our meals, even the birthday gifts I gave you weren't cheap. I even paid for your trips home. To break up after spending so much is a betrayal. You cheated first, and now you're talking about betrayal." I was just speechless with astonishment. "And about the house, it's marital property, so it should be split. Selling at the loft is just tyranny. It can't be done. Don't you feel sorry for me? Don't you have a heart? What are you talking about? Asking for the money back for dates, that's pathetic. It's just a few $1,000s in total. Besides, that house isn't yours or Lydia's, that's mine. I let you use it. So, the rights to it belong to me, not to you or Lydia. And I sure don't want to hear about compassion from a self-centered cheater like you." "Shut up. This is a matter between a husband and wife. Don't interfere." Jameson lunged at my father, but my father easily flipped him over and pinned him down. My father has been practicing judo since he was young and could easily pin down someone like Jameson. "If you keep making a scene, I'll call the cops. If you don't like that, then just get out of here." At my father's command, Sarah and Jameson left crying. Their pathetic retreat was hard to watch. I then filed a claim for compensation for Sarah and Jameson. They both ended up with a debt of about $20,000 each. And since I submitted proof of their affair to the company, their fake overtime for affairs was discovered. They were billed for the improper overtime, putting them in a tough spot. Jameson was demoted and viewed coldly by his colleagues, making his workplace uncomfortable. Sarah felt the same unease, and both seemed to have resigned soon after. I don't know what Sarah is up to, but Gabriella told me she saw Jameson working part-time at a nearby convenience store. "Thanks to you, I'm glad I didn't have to raise a child with such a man." "Thank you." "Not at all. I'm sad you moved far away, but can I visit you this holiday season?" "Of course, come over. By then, the baby should be born." As we talked, the baby kicked in my belly. This child being healthy is my happiness now. Despite the big incident, I managed to protect what's important to me. Now, I'm waiting for the birth, living in my parents' big house. I'm Kate, 45 years old. I married my husband 2 years younger than me 15 years ago. We met at a mixer, and it was thanks to a slip of the tongue from a friend who was with us, saying, "Kate bought a house recently," that I, despite being older, received a passionate approach from my husband. Initially skeptical, I was swept off my feet by his charming smile and incredibly kind and smart demeanor when we went on a date alone. Having never really dated men seriously before, I quickly became captivated by him. I wanted him to like me, so I made efforts to embody the ideal woman men desire. Luckily, I didn't mind doing household chores, and since I had been living alone for a long time, portraying a domestic woman wasn't that difficult. After a year of dating, he proposed to me, and we happily got married. And at his request, I changed my job from a full-time employee to a part-time worker. Who would have thought that the efforts to win his heart would backfire like this? It happened on the first day after I got home late from work since we got married. The weather suddenly turned bad, and I was running home. If only I hadn't hung the laundry outside. Half regretfully, I opened the front door. And there were already my husband's shoes. He seemed unusually early today. Thank goodness. It just started raining a while ago, so the laundry should be okay. I breathed a sigh of relief and entered the house. I'm home. Welcome back. Huh. Why this sour tone? I saw my husband sitting on the sofa with a sulky face, watching TV, and beside him, the laundry that had been taken in was piled up in a messy state. I took them in. Thanks a lot. Don't hang laundry outside when the weather's like this. Don't you feel ashamed making your husband do household chores? Huh. The words of gratitude stick in my throat. As I blink in disbelief, my husband lets out an audible sigh. What do you think I asked you to get a part-time job for? So you could become a proper housewife. If you're gonna be my wife, you better get that straight. How outdated can you get? And it's raining unexpectedly. But back then, I was head over heels for him. Moreover, it was me who portrayed myself as the domesticated woman who could handle household chores. Swallowing my complaints, I replied, "Got it." With a sigh of resignation, I understood. While carrying this uneasiness, I gaze at the amulet a friend taught me to keep for emergencies. My heart gradually calms down. At that time, I couldn't bring myself to dislike my husband just for that. A year later, I gave birth to my beautiful daughter. Having my parents nearby for support was a blessing. My husband doted on our daughter, but that was about it. He still didn't help much with household chores or parenting. But back then, our daughter was very attached to the husband who spoiled her. Maybe it's better that he only plays with her. Fortunately, we could manage our living expenses with my husband's salary. When our daughter turned 3, I enrolled her in daycare and returned to work part-time. I started using my own salary to find ways to make things easier for myself. My husband wasn't one to interfere with how I handled household chores or parenting, considering he didn't do them himself. Whenever he complained about the messy room or the late dinner preparations, I tried to keep my peace of mind by thinking of him as a big child who earns money for us. And so, despite some minor grievances, we managed to live reasonably harmoniously as a typical family of 3. One Saturday when our daughter was in middle school, shortly after I sent her off to her club activities, my husband's phone rang. Judging from the muffled voice leaking out, it seemed to be his mother on the other end. Seemingly in a serious tone, my husband scratched his head while responding with acknowledgments. Once the call ended, I asked, "What happened?" Listen. Can we let my parents live with us for a while? Huh. According to my husband, it seems his parents' apartment is being demolished, and they want to stay with us until they find a new place. They're getting older, and with issues like heat stroke and steps, it's difficult to casually choose a temporary home for them. Is that okay? I understand what he's trying to say. I get their perspective too. But I don't get along well with them. Despite feeling uneasy inside, I nodded in agreement. It can't be helped. In front of my husband, I can't possibly say I don't want his parents here. A month later, my in-laws arrived with a moving truck. They brought in a ton of stuff, roamed around the house as if it were their own, and sighed with disappointment. "Your house is so small. It's because of all your stuff." Swallowing the words I almost blurted out, I forced a smile. I opened the sliding door that connects to the living room and showed them. "I've cleared out the room downstairs for you too. Please make it your own room until you find a new place. It's chilly in here, isn't it? If you need it, feel free to use the air conditioner." I told my Mill, who was spreading out her belongings. Then, my Phil proceeded to open the refrigerator without permission. "Hey, hold on a sec. What's wrong? From now on, this is our home, right? What's wrong with opening the fridge in our own home?" Well, that's true, but even so, he hasn't been here enough times to count on one hand. Couldn't he have said something before opening the fridge? I drink 3 bottles of beers a day, you know. I'll let it slide today, but from now on, make sure to chill them properly. Understood. This is exactly why I didn't want this. My in-laws are, to put it nicely, old-fashioned people who believe that the elderly should be respected. They firmly believe that men are superior to women and should naturally be prioritized. When my daughter was born, their first words were, "Next time, it should be a boy." What's worse is that my in-laws dote on my husband, and my husband, in turn, acts like a child in front of them. Fortunately, my in-laws live far away, and until now, I only had to endure 1 day of visiting them during New Year's and Easter. But if this continues for a while, It's disheartening, but unavoidable. I thought I could endure a few months of adjustment, but my hopeful expectations were completely shattered. Kate, I've been wondering, is this all for dinner? After living together for a while, my Mill said with a furrowed brow. Yes. Is there something wrong with it? It's not nutritious enough. While it might lack in that aspect, the soup is packed with vegetables, and the main dish is salmon. It should be nutritionally adequate. Grandma, Mom cooks dinner after work. I think this is enough. With my daughter's gentle follow-up, my Mill sharply retorted, a child who knows nothing shouldn't interfere in adult conversations. I'm saying this for you and your father, you know. That's right. Since you always have weekends off from your part-time job, you should make some food ahead of time or something. Satisfied with her husband's response, my Mill nodded approvingly. I haven't been able to cook properly because I've been busy catering to my in-laws' whims, like go buy some beer, or the room is cold, add more blankets. If you understand, then get to studying right away. If you're going to talk big, wait until you get into a university that you can brag about to others. Upon hearing her cold-hearted Mill's words, my daughter looked uncomfortable, quickly set down her fork, and headed upstairs to her room on the second floor. My Mill kept complaining about my daughter's attitude. But I thought, my Phil is even worse. Hey. Right there. All right, hit it, run. My Phil gulped down beer while taking his place in front of the TV, enjoying watching baseball with loud cheers. With one knee on the sofa and excitement spewing spit, I frowned at my Phil. Since my in-laws arrived, the first to be favored is the elder male, my Phil. Next is my husband, then Mill, and after that, me and my daughter. Certainly, there are situations where such family dynamics should be respected. However, what about the feelings of my daughter who has been denied her previous way of life and pushed out by her in-laws? My in-laws spend their weekdays and weekends as they please, without contributing to household chores or finances, let alone helping with the house hunt. Once, when I asked them to contribute a little money, my Mill was hysterically shouted at. When we raised our son, we never once asked him for money. Are you trying to extort money from your parents, even if they're in-laws? It makes no sense. They didn't contribute at all, even though they were splurging on shopping and trips. Both my daughter and I are reaching our limits. On weekends, when I had time off, I sent my daughter to my parents' house. Then, after confirming that my in-laws were asleep, I secretly approached my husband with a proposal. Hey, since your father and mother came, our daughter has been staying in her room more often. And the food and utilities aren't cheap either. This is our house, yours, mine, and hers. Could you please talk to your father and mother and ask them to be a bit more considerate? Huh? Yeah, well, I think my dad and mom are going to move out soon. I think we just need to bear with it for a little longer. My husband, who didn't take his eyes off his smartphone, answered vaguely. Lately, my husband seems to be addicted to smartphone games, touching his smartphone whenever he has free time. He's also been busy with work, coming home late, and increasing his overtime and working on weekends. Just the other weekend, he suddenly had to go on a business trip and rushed out in a panic. Hey, are you listening? I'm listening, I'm listening. I wonder what's so fun about it. As I casually tried to peek at his smartphone, my husband stood up quickly and hid the screen of his smartphone. What are you doing? It's private. Indeed, the smartphone is a private item. But is it really that surprising just to see the screen of a game? What are you hiding? And nothing. There's nothing. Then show me. I'm interested to see what smartphone game you're hooked on. Well, that's... My husband touched his smartphone with his other hand behind his back. Is it because of that? Suddenly, from the previously quiet smartphone, I heard the incoming message tone of the messaging app. Is it normal to exchange messages at this time, on a Friday night at 11? It's suspicious. Looks like you got a message. Why don't you take a look? I smiled gently as I showed it to him. My husband glanced at the smartphone screen discreetly and forced a smile. It's just a work consultation. You should go to bed soon. I have work tomorrow, so, As he headed towards the bedroom, my husband's phone slipped from his hand. I quickly picked it up and glanced at the screen, where there was a message from Grace saying, "Looking forward to tomorrow. I love you too." I thrust my husband's smartphone at him from zero distance, right in front of his panicked eyes. What kind of job involves having fun with girls? Hughes Grace, did you tell her that you love her too? My bad feeling was spot on. For a while, my husband seemed lost in thought, but then he slumped over as if resigning himself, and just like that, he said, "Sorry. I just meant it as a little joke," as he rubbed his head against the floor. To cut to the chase, my husband was cheating. Getting addicted to smartphone games was a blatant lie. His affair was apparently with a younger female co-worker, and of course, his claims of working overtime and going on business trips were lies too. I felt dizzy with unexpected betrayal. I thought I had been supporting my husband to the fullest extent with work, household chores, and parenting. But my husband's attitude, trying to laugh it off, made something inside me snap, making several screws loose with a loud noise. "Do you think you'll be forgiven if you're not serious about it? Shut up." My abrupt voice woke up my in-laws, who appeared with sleepy eyes, rubbing them. What on earth is going on? Perfect timing. Let's have them hear about what his son has done. Please listen. I explained the newly learned facts to my in-laws in detail. My husband sat there, shrinking like a scolded child. Even if they think I'm childish for tattling to my in-laws, both my in-laws and my husband should feel ashamed. After finishing my explanation vigorously, I took a deep breath, and that's when it happened. My Phil muttered disinterestedly as if nothing mattered. "Is that all? What? You're saying it's just a fling, right? A couple of affairs are a sign of manliness. If you get mad over something like that, how are you going to get through life? I can't take this anymore. If it's my mill, she should understand how I feel." I turned my gaze from my Phil, who was picking his ear, to my mill, and I was dumbfounded. Surprisingly, my mill was comforting my husband as she rubbed his back. It's a disaster to be scolded just for peeking at someone's smartphone. "You used to be such a homey and nice woman when you came to greet us before, but now you're just an old hag. It's no wonder he wants to play around. You understand me, right? I just needed a little excitement." My husband raised his face brightly and nodded. My mill sighed in exasperation. "Don't yell hysterically over something so trivial. If he's cheating, it's because you lack charm, you know." My jaw dropped. Dealing with these people, who act like nothing happened, or worse, defend his cheating son, is just unbearable. I had hoped to endure it until my daughter became an adult, but I've reached my limit. Let's get a divorce. I took out the filled-out divorce forms that I had acquired when I was young. My husband looked at his parents with a helpless puppy-like gaze, seeking help. His parents snorted disdainfully. "We're fine with parting ways, you know. My son is talented and handsome. He'll have plenty of options in the future. Besides, isn't the girl he is dating young? Then, we can finally have a baby boy. We don't need a girl in this household." I watched to see how he would react to his own daughter being talked about like that, but my husband chuckled as if he had realized something. "Yay, that's right. My daughter used to be so cute, but now she just treats me like air. Maybe starting a new family and redoing everything is one way to go." What a joke. It was my husband who stopped paying attention to our daughter first. As she grew older, became more sensible, and started saying things that weren't particularly cute, my husband began to find her bothersome. It's absurd to think that a father who doesn't listen to you seriously and only sporadically gets involved would be liked. The little affection I had left for my husband disappeared in no time. "Oh, and you admitted to cheating, right? When it comes to divorce, I'll be demanding not only property division, but also a minimum of several $1,000s in compensation." As soon as I said that to my husband, who had taken a pen, his hand stopped. My mill grabbed his hand. "Property division. Compensation. Even though you're the reason for the cheating, why does our son have to pay such a large sum? That wasn't a thing in our day. Rather than bear such a burden, don't agree to the divorce." Even though it's a nonsensical argument, it's 3 against 1 from an outsider's perspective. My husband smirked at his own position. "That's right, I have to fill this out here for the divorce to go through. If you want a divorce, I also want our opinions to be respected. PFFT. Fine. I can't take it anymore. Everything about these people is impossible. The last straw has been broken. I understand. Instead of property division and compensation, I'm fine with just taking what I bought. And I don't mind recording our conversation as a verbal agreement instead of a written contract. My husband and his parents visibly breathed a sigh of relief. Before they changed their minds, my Mel took the lead, and we both opened the voice memo apps on our smartphones. I repeated what I had just said, and my husband accepted it without hesitation. Now, it's the beginning of our second lives. My husband eagerly filled out the divorce forms. Late that night, after the three of them had gone to bed, I sent a message to my daughter about our plans for the future. I breathed a sigh of relief when I received her okay response. Don't regret it. Be prepared. And then, I hurriedly searched the room. The divorce forms had been submitted properly. Of course, I got custody of my daughter. Today is the day my daughter and I leave this house. I'd been preparing for the move. My in-laws and husband have become even more overbearing than before, and today they're drinking from daytime again. I can't wait to get away from them. My daughter has long been fed up with my in-laws and has finished packing her belongings. I didn't have many personal belongings either. Of course not. Since getting married, I hardly ever went shopping for myself, for fashion or entertainment. It was almost time for the moving company to arrive. It's a good thing you don't have much stuff. It'll make the moving costs cheaper, won't it? My Mel smirked as she poked at the boxes we had packed. My daughter and I exchanged glances and burst out laughing involuntarily. What are you talking about? We've ordered the biggest truck, you know. Huh. Ignoring the stunned Mel, I walked over to the refrigerator and forcefully unplugged it. Hey, what are you doing? These are things I bought. I took out a large amount of drinks and food from inside and stacked them on the spot. Of course, the contents of the freezer were no exception. The floor got a little wet, but I didn't care anymore. My Mel grabbed my arm. I'm busy right now. I shook her off and proceeded to unplug the electrical appliances one by one and carry away whatever could be carried. Microwave, electric kettle, toaster, washing machine, and robotic vacuum cleaner. I smiled at my dumbfounded husband. I'd been pouring most of my salary into appliances to reduce the burden of household chores. Didn't you notice? Yay. Most of the appliances in the house were ones I had bought. But that's not all. Mom, I got it down from upstairs. My daughter came downstairs carrying a light. Thank you. Next, I'll need help with the first floor, please. My daughter brought out a step stool and reached for the living room light. My husband and Phil seemed unable to comprehend the situation. Probably because they've been drunk since daytime. Oh well. I'll explain. And if I may add one more thing, the air conditioner, lights, and large furniture in the house were originally purchased by me. You forgot about that, didn't you? My husband finally seemed to come to his senses upon hearing that. Please stop. Please. There's no stopping. I entered another room and opened the wardrobe that was placed there. I don't know when, but it was packed with my in-laws' clothes. I'll only take what I bought. Without waiting for a response, I grabbed the clothes and threw them on the floor. There were some high-end brands in there that I had never seen before, but it didn't matter to me. I emptied out the wardrobe, then went on to empty out the bookshelf and display shelves one by one. And then, I went to the bathroom. When I opened the drawer, it was filled with my Mel's cosmetics. It's a shame there are so many high-end cosmetics. Taking each one out individually is a hassle. Here we go. I flipped the drawer upside down. In no time, it was empty. Phew, feels refreshing. My Mel, hastily gathering her cosmetics, turned pale. Mom, the movers are here. My daughter called out to me loudly. Have them move everything quickly. With a lively voice, my daughter responded to the movers. She's much more mature than the adults standing in front of me, who are just flustered. It's messy, but please move it without worrying about it. The moving company is truly professional. The inside of the house is becoming empty at an incredible speed. No. What remains in the house are just a few pieces of furniture and a large amount of food and entertainment items without a place to go. In any case, hardly anything essential for living remained. Well then, see you later. I waved goodbye to the movers and took a deep breath with my daughter after finishing a job. When I received an envelope from my daughter, I told her to go to her grandparents' house. At that moment, I was shouted at loudly from behind. After urging my daughter to go, who trembled with surprise, I turned around. It's not just because of alcohol. My in-laws and husband were flushed and trembling. How could you do such a terrible thing? I just did as promised. Anyway, please hurry up and complete the moving procedures, everyone. Three of them raised dumbfounded voices. It's so exasperating. You have forgotten that too. I'm the owner of this land and house. My husband's face turned pale in an instant. And no way, you mean this house too? Ding dong. Correct. The procedures for selling this land and house have been completed. Even though my expectations were fulfilled, my in-laws, including my husband, seemed more stunned than pleased. That can't be allowed. Listen, I purchased this house. Of course, I'm the owner. Even after we got married, I've been the one paying off the loan. You haven't been involved at all. Why do you think you can have a say only in the sale? In fact, whether we were living together or not, I was able to proceed with the sales procedures at my own discretion. I haven't violated any public rules. Above all, our current home is practically vacant. I couldn't imagine them, who kept on spending recklessly, being able to buy back furniture and appliances to return to their previous standard of living. It's okay. Look, you had a cute girlfriend, right? You can rely on her. My Phil tried to cheer him up, and I chuckled. You can do whatever you want, but I doubt she has any money, you know. I demanded compensation from her. He was taken aback. I wonder if this is what they mean by a stunned expression. That's not what we agreed on. It's not different. I told you I wouldn't demand compensation from you. After that, I hired a lawyer and contacted Grace. Unlike your parents, her parents were rational. They paid me the compensation about a week ago. At my words, the blood drained from my husband's face. That's impossible. Husband hurriedly tries to contact on smartphone. But the leaked voice was mechanical even though it was the same female voice. The number you have reached has been disconnected. As my bewildered husband and in-laws stood there, I approached and handed them an envelope I received from our daughter. Here you go. This is from our daughter. Oh, could it be? What does it say? My husband's face lights up. Nobody said anything about a letter though. He opened the envelope eagerly, and as he unfolded the paper inside, both my husband and in-laws were stunned. What, this? That's right, documents regarding child support. Prepared through a lawyer, it was a solid legal document. So you don't have to pay any asset division or alimony. No. Realized it. I haven't decided anything about child support. Basically, receiving child support is the right of the child. My husband's mouth drops open. The child's father is you. That's what the child said. They're determined to get into a prestigious university to brag about it to others. You're responsible, and you'll pay until she graduates from university. My husband and in-laws are completely deflated. It's the least I could do. I put a pamphlet from the moving company in front of the three and left. A month later, when the proceeds from the land sale were safely deposited into my account from the real estate company, I began receiving emails from my husband, urging reconciliation. According to the content, the relationship with Grace was exposed at work because of my phone call. Grace, now jobless after losing her place, resigned. My husband was stripped of his position and demoted. Now they're living together in a shabby company house in the countryside, scraping by as a family of three. Moreover, my husband and Phil, as well as my Mill, who had been living each day at her own pace, couldn't handle the household chores, leading to constant arguments. The room is filled with clutter and garbage, making it difficult to live properly. What goes around, comes around. Since it was getting annoying, I blocked messages and refused calls and emails so he couldn't contact me again. By the way, I'm back to being a full-time employee now, and my daughter is living happily and energetically. The room may be a bit cramped, but the furniture and appliances are state-of-the-art. With my daughter's help, the burden of household chores is almost non-existent. By the way, my daughter is working hard at both her club activities and her studies. Even though I said I don't need to care about what my Mill says, I won't yield when it comes to working hard for my future. Maybe I'll go back to my parents' house when it's time to renew the contract. My parents have always adored my daughter, and she loves them too. They wouldn't mind living together. With the alimony and proceeds from the end sale, it might be nice to renovate my parents' house to make it more comfortable for them and my daughter. I took out the brand new cosmetics my daughter and I had recently bought together. I apply a calm-colored lipstick to my lips. The age of living to 100. My life starts now. The reflection in the mirror looks happy. Of course, I'll continue to be happy from now on.